My mom forced me out of the house to make room for her new family. Years later she came back begging, demanding I cover her stepdaughter's college tuition. Stay with me while I tell the whole thing. If it moves you, please support the channel. Subscribe, smash that like button, and share this with people you care about. I'm Emily Parker. At 17, I thought I had everything more or less under control. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I'd lived with my mom, Karen, ever since my dad left when I was 10. Growing up without him wasn't easy, but I kept telling myself it was okay because it was just the two of us. She always claimed we were a team against the world. For a long time, I believed that. Then Mom met Greg, and things began to shift. He was charming at first, fake smiles, cheesy jokes, trying to win me over. I never really trusted him though. There was something in the way he looked at me, like I was an inconvenience to be worked around. He had a daughter, Lily, who was my age. The first time we crossed paths, she barely glanced at me, smirked, and walked straight into my room without asking. She acted like she owned whatever she wanted, and Mom didn't even comment. At first I tried to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe Greg needed time. Maybe Lily would warm up. But it became clear fast that nothing would change. Mom began spending more time with them than with me. The dinners we used to share became situations where Greg monopolized the conversation, and Lily played the center of attention. When I tried to speak, I was cut off or ignored. The household rules changed too. I found myself doing every chore while Lily lounged on the couch on her phone. If I pushed back, Mom would snap that Lily was a guest, and I should be more welcoming. It hurt, but I stayed quiet, thinking maybe things would even out once everyone settled in. They didn't. If anything, they got worse. Mom started comparing me to Lily. How polite she was, how easy she was to have around. It felt like I couldn't do anything right. When Lily rolled her eyes or made biting remarks about me, Mom shrugged it off. But if I so much as slipped, I was accused of having an attitude. The night it all fell apart is burned into my memory. I'd just finished a shift at the grocery store, exhausted and still in my uniform, and I came home to find Lily sprawled across my bed painting her nails. My backpack was on the floor, and she was using my laptop like it was hers. I lost it. I told her to get out, and we started screaming at each other. When Mom and Greg came in, I figured she'd finally stand up for me. Instead, she looked at me like I was a stranger. "You're always causing problems, Emily," she said cold. "Maybe it's time you think about living somewhere else." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I laughed, thinking she was joking, but then she told me to pack a bag. Just like that, the woman who'd promised we were a team chose Greg and Lily over me. I'll never forget Lily's face, leaning in the doorway with that smirk, watching me shove clothes into a duffel. That night I went to live with my Aunt Rachel. She opened her door without hesitation and hugged me like I mattered, telling me I was safe. I cried harder than I ever had. Not only because I'd lost my home, but because I realized I had already lost my mom long before that night. It had crept in slowly, the kind of changes you barely notice until they're obvious. Mom started canceling plans with me for Greg's dinners. If Lily wanted to shop, suddenly there was money. But when I needed new shoes for school, I had to wait for the next paycheck. I tried not to complain, but it was impossible not to see who was being prioritized. Greg and Lily got the best. I was left to make do. House rules shifted too. I had a strict curfew, had to call if I was 5 minutes late, and was expected to clean up after everyone. Lily stayed out late, blasted music at night, and never helped. Whenever I brought it up, Mom's answer was always the same. "Be understanding, Lily's adjusting." I swallowed my frustration for weeks, but resentment built until it exploded. One night in the kitchen, Mom complained that I wasn't pleasant enough to be around. I asked what she meant, and before I could stop myself I said I was tired of feeling like a guest in my own house while Lily acted as if she owned it. Greg, at the table, leaned back with that smug look. "Karen," he said smoothly, "maybe Emily would be happier staying with family for a while, somewhere she can cool off." I froze. He wasn't even subtle anymore. He wanted me out. I looked to Mom, waiting for her to tell him this was our home too. Instead she sighed, rubbed her temples, and said, "Maybe he's right. Things haven't been working lately." Those words hit me like a punch. It's one thing to be sidelined, It's another to hear your own mother agree you should leave. I laughed nervously, thinking she'd realize how insane it sounded, but she didn't. Her expression stayed hard, her eyes avoiding mine. Are you serious? I asked. You're always so negative, Emily, she said quietly, like her mind was already made up. This house needs peace, and right now you're just too much. Too much. That's how I was to her. Not a daughter, not family, just a problem to remove. Greg smirked like he'd won. Lily sat in the doorway folding her arms, satisfied as if she'd long known this would happen. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to shake Mom until she remembered me. All I could do was stand there numb as she looked to Greg for approval instead of at me. In that moment I knew she'd picked a side and it wasn't mine. A few weeks later, with graduation approaching, everything finally collapsed. I came home one afternoon to find my suitcase by the front door and Mom standing next to it, arms crossed, face set. She didn't wait for me to ask. It's time for you to go, Emily, she said. The words felt unreal. I thought there was still time to fix things, that maybe she'd calm down, but she'd already decided. I asked where she expected me to go. Rachel said she'd take you, she replied flatly. My aunt had always been kind, but hearing Mom hand me off like a burden shattered something inside me. She didn't even give me a chance to pack properly. She'd already gone through my room, folded my clothes and zipped the bag closed. Watching her treat my life like clutter to be cleared out made me feel smaller than ever before. Every shirt she folded, every book shoved into that bag, was another reminder that I wasn't wanted anymore. Lily slouched against the wall, gum snapping between her teeth, a sly grin tugging at her lips. She didn't need words, her face said everything. She was winning. I wanted to spit out that someday she'd know what it was like to be discarded, but the sentence froze in my throat. Mom shoved the bag at me like she was handing off a package. No embrace, no sorry, not even the glint of a tear. Just cold dismissal. Rachel will come get you. I locked my eyes on her, searching desperately for hesitation, for even a flicker that she might reconsider. Nothing. When Aunt Rachel showed up, she pulled me into her arms before she even spoke. Her warmth hit me so hard against Mom's emptiness that I nearly broke right there. She whispered that I could stay as long as I needed, that I was safe with her. That promise, simple, steady, felt like air to someone who had been drowning. As we walked out, I turned back once. Mom didn't trail after me. She didn't even step into the doorway to wave. She just vanished into the house as if I'd already been erased. Lily shot me one last smug glance before shutting the door behind her. Sitting in Rachel's car, I clenched my fists and vowed silently. Whatever came next, school, work, life itself, I would survive on my own. I would never again beg for a place in my mother's world. If she could cast me aside this easily, I'd make certain she never had the chance to do it twice. Living with Aunt Rachel felt like walking into another universe. Her place was small, but it breathed warmth. Morning coffee drifting through the air, old jazz spinning in the evenings. She never treated me as a burden. She made space for me, asked about my day, listened without judgment. For the first time in months, I wasn't treading on eggshells. When graduation came, Rachel sat right in the front row, clapping louder than anyone as my name rang out. She waved wildly with one hand, flowers clutched in the other, her whole face glowing with pride. Out of habit, I scanned the crowd for Mom, but the seat I'd saved was empty. That emptiness gnawed at me even as I smiled for photos, even as I tried to soak in the moment. With Rachel cheering me on, I took shifts at a nearby diner while prepping for college. The work was long and the balance brutal. School books in one hand, trays of plates in the other, but I never complained. Every dollar earned was another step toward freedom. I saved, applied for scholarships, stretched every penny. While classmates spent weekends at parties, I was scrubbing tables or studying in a quiet corner of the library. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. Rachel made sure I never felt alone. She quizzed me for exams, slipped encouraging notes into my lunch, and celebrated even my smallest wins. When the acceptance letter arrived, she cried harder than I did, telling me I had earned every bit of it. Her belief became the anchor I clung to whenever doubt crept in. Mom faded into the background. The only reminders came once a year, a short text, "Happy birthday, Em." No calls, no visits, no effort to fix what she had broken. Her words felt hollow, like she was just ticking a box. I never replied. A part of me wanted to, but I knew any response would tear open wounds I was still trying to heal. College tested me to my limits. Dawn lectures, double diner shifts, nights spent studying until my eyes blurred. Exhaustion gnawed at me, and some days I wanted to give in. But the drive to prove myself kept me standing. I wasn't only chasing a degree. I was building a life no one could take from me. Piece by piece, I carved out independence. I rented a cramped apartment near campus, filled it with thrift store furniture, and lined the walls with photos of Rachel. Every victory was sharper because I had earned it without shortcuts. Still, betrayal whispered in quiet moments. Watching families laugh together, overhearing classmates talk about parents paying tuition. I couldn't help but wonder why my own mother had never wanted that for me. Even so, I refused to let bitterness define me. I clung to Rachel's kindness, to the resilience I had built, and to the conviction that I deserved better than what I'd been handed. By the end of college, one truth was clear. I was no longer the girl waiting for her mother's approval. I was building something stronger my way. After endless nights of work and study, the payoff finally came. Scholarships covered most of my tuition, and I managed the rest through sheer determination. Walking across the stage for my diploma felt like reaching the summit of a mountain I'd been scaling for years. The applause roared, but what mattered most was knowing I had done it on my own. When I started my first full-time job, I couldn't stop grinning. It wasn't glamorous, but the paycheck was steady, the office stable, the future wide open. For the first time, I didn't worry about rent or skipping meals. I furnished a modest apartment and savored the taste of security. Every bill paid, every milestone achieved reminded me I owed none of it to the woman who had left me behind. Through all of it, Rachel never wavered. She celebrated each success like it was her own. When I signed my job contract, she hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe, whispering how proud she was. Over the years, her unwavering support filled the void my mother had abandoned. She wasn't just family anymore. She had become the parent I'd needed all along. Rumors drifted in from extended relatives. They spoke carefully, hinting at cracks in Karen and Greg's marriage. Money troubles, constant fights, growing distance. The perfect picture they once flaunted had started to unravel. Cousins dropped vague comments about how things weren't going well. I listened politely but never pried. Their struggles were theirs. Their choices no longer had any hold over me. Instead, I poured myself into shaping my own future. I advanced at work, taking on tougher challenges, growing more confident with every success. I even managed to take Rachel on a weekend trip to the coast, something she had dreamed of but never thought possible. Watching her eyes light up as we strolled the shoreline made every sleepless night worth it. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. What I had built versus what I had left behind. Without Karen, I found peace. Without her approval, I discovered strength. I didn't need her money, her validation, or her guidance. My achievements were proof enough that I was more than the daughter she had discarded. Even when whispers of her hardships reached me, I felt only distance. No satisfaction, no thirst for revenge, just clarity. Her struggles were the natural result of her choices. I had long since stopped carrying that weight. My life was moving forward, brighter and steadier than I ever imagined, untouched by whatever she was going through. It had been years since I last heard her voice when one day, my phone lit up with her number. I stared at the screen for a long moment, torn on whether to answer. Part of me wondered if this was it. The moment she would finally own up to what she'd done and try to make amends. Against my better instincts, I answered. Her voice came across strangely warm, almost rehearsed. She asked how I'd been, remarked that it had been far too long, and carried on as if the years of silence between us had never existed. I kept my responses clipped, waiting for the real reason behind the call. And sure enough, it came. She mentioned Lily. Her daughter had apparently been accepted into a prestigious university, the kind people boast about at dinner tables. Pride laced her tone, but so did unease. She explained that tuition was more than they could cover, that financial aid fell short, and that Lily's dreams might collapse without outside help. I listened, jaw clenched, bracing for where this was headed. Then she laid it out plainly. You're doing well now, Emily. You've got a solid career. Maybe you could help your sister. The word sister rolled off her tongue, like it was supposed to mean something. She didn't ask if I could afford it. She didn't ask how I felt about it. She spoke as though my success automatically belonged to her, as though I owed them a share of everything I had fought tooth and nail to earn. When I didn't answer right away, she pressed harder. She reminded me that family takes care of family, that I had been fortunate, and that the least I could do was give back. There was no apology tucked inside her words, no acknowledgement of the pain she had caused me years ago. This wasn't about reconciliation. It was about money. I let her talk while disbelief and anger wrestled inside me. After all the years of silence, after all the time she had ignored me, this was what finally made her reach out. Not love, not remorse, but a request for me to bankroll the very person she had chosen over me. Her tone softened, coaxing. Think about it, Emily. Lily deserves this chance. Don't be selfish. Selfish. That word echoed long after I hung up. The same woman who once packed my things and pushed me out of her home was now asking me to fund Lily's future. My chest tightened as I held the phone, reeling at the audacity. When I stayed silent, she tried again, cutting deeper. You wouldn't be where you are if it weren't for me. I raised you, Emily. Everything you've achieved started with me. Anger bubbled, though my voice stayed level. She didn't stop, shifting from arrogance to pleading. Lily is your sister. Don't you care about her? You can't turn your back on family. Family. The same excuse she'd once used to justify replacing me. She wielded it like a weapon, expecting me to collapse under guilt. When I still didn't give her the answer she wanted, she pushed harder. Don't be selfish, Emily. You've got plenty now. Helping Lily won't hurt you. Real family supports each other. But instead of binding me, her words broke something loose. Clarity settled over me like ice. She hadn't called to reconnect or to seek forgiveness. She didn't want a daughter, she wanted a wallet. For the first time, I saw her without disguise. It was never about love. It was always about what she could take. I didn't give her an answer that night. I simply said I'd think about it. Her pause told me she hadn't expected that. She sounded almost triumphant, certain I would eventually cave. I ended the call politely, but my mind was already moving elsewhere. If she believed I'd just hand over my hard-earned money, she didn't know me at all. Quietly, I started digging. I confirmed Lily's acceptance through a friend who worked with admissions paperwork. Looking over parts of her application, my suspicion tightened. The essays were too polished, far beyond the smug, careless writing I remembered from her schoolwork. A quick search proved it. Whole sections were lifted straight from the internet. Her extracurriculars had been puffed up too. Clubs she rarely attended became leadership roles. Volunteer work that never happened was logged as summers spent giving back. I sat with the discovery torn. Part of me wanted to send it all to admissions and watch her perfect chance implode. It would have been justified. But the more I thought about it, the less it satisfied me. Exposing her on paper wouldn't touch the deeper problem. My mother's arrogance, her belief that I still owed her. No. I wanted her to face me, to look into my eyes and see that the daughter she cast aside was no longer desperate for her approval. Revenge, I decided, needed to be delivered in person. So I waited. I rehearsed what I would say, imagined her expression when she realized I wasn't the naive teenager she thought she could guilt into submission. Each day, the plan sharpened, and with it came a strange calm. When she called again, asking if I'd decided, I suggested we meet. Relief and excitement filled her voice. She thought she had won. I kept my tone neutral, masking the storm beneath. The diner was quiet when I arrived, filled with the scent of fried food and vinyl booths. I spotted them instantly. Mom sitting upright with a forced smile, Lily glued to her phone, Greg sipping coffee. As I slid into the booth, Mom leaned forward, brisk and expectant. I'm glad you came. Let's discuss what you can contribute for Lily. No greeting. No small talk. Straight to business. She clearly believed this meeting was a formality, that I'd hand over a check. I folded my hands calmly. Before we discuss that, I said evenly, we need to clear a few things first. Her frown deepened, but I pressed on. Do you remember the night you told me to leave? Weeks before graduation. The night you stood by while Greg suggested I move out, and you agreed. Her eyes flickered before darting to him. And do you remember who took me in? Who made sure I finished school, supported me through college, and celebrated every milestone you couldn't bother showing up for? Aunt Rachel did. She was there when you weren't. Everything I've built, every success you're so quick to claim, was earned without you. Lily shifted uneasily, her phone now face down. Greg cleared his throat, but I didn't give him the chance to speak. You called me because you wanted money, I said, lowering my voice. Not to apologize. Not because you missed me. And here's the truth, you're not getting a cent. Her mouth dropped open, but I wasn't finished. Not only am I refusing to pay for Lily's tuition, but every cent I ever earn will go to the woman who actually cared for me. Aunt Rachel is the one I'll honor, not you. The words struck her like a slap. Her face contorted, her voice rising until the waitress glanced over. She spat accusations, her fury spilling into insults, blaming me for tearing the family apart. Across the booth, Lily shrank, cheeks burning with embarrassment. Greg muttered weakly, "Let's not do this here." But Mom ignored him, too consumed by rage. I sat steady, unshaken. For the first time, I wasn't the powerless girl she had cast aside. I was the woman who had rebuilt her life, and nothing she said could change that. After that day, I knew there was nothing left worth salvaging. Any illusion that she might change had shattered. I didn't call, didn't text, didn't answer her attempts to reach me. For me, the line was drawn. I was done. With that chapter closed, I turned to something meaningful. Aunt Rachel had given me more than shelter. She gave me stability, love, and the chance to become myself. I wanted her to feel the security she had always provided me. So I set up a fund in her name, arranging it quietly so she could finally step back from long hours and enjoy the comfort she deserved. When I told her, she cried, saying she needed nothing in return. I reminded her it wasn't repayment, it was gratitude. Taking care of her gave me a peace I had never felt. Every step of my journey led to that moment. Not caving to guilt, not surrendering to manipulation, but standing firm in what I valued. For the first time, I felt completely free from my mother's shadow. News trickled in through relatives. Tuition weighed heavier than expected, forcing Lily into loans and cutbacks. The image of effortless success crumbled. Meanwhile, Mom and Greg's marriage reportedly began to fracture under stress and resentment. But I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. Their downfall was nothing more than the natural result of choices they made long ago. My satisfaction came from knowing I had built something stronger, untouchable without them. On the other side of it all, I carried no sadness for what I lost. What I had gained was far greater. A true parent in Aunt Rachel, a career I forged myself, and the understanding that family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by love, loyalty, and those who stand by you when everyone else walks away.